This is Shelia Butler with Successful Women Talk, and I want to say thank you for joining us today. I am excited. We have a very special guest. I know I always say this, but every guest to me is very special. But we have Gretchen Pritts with us today. Gretchen is a social media expert. She does a lot of content writing, copywriting, and she's going to share her story with us and give us some tips and tricks on copywriting and content building for your business. So welcome, Gretchen.
Hi, Sheila. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. Hey, we're going to start out with just a general question that I ask everyone, which is, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started, and basically how you started your business.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, I have a long story and a short story, but the half version is I was working in corporate America, kind of really unhappy, working in pharmaceutical sales. Not really happy with what I was doing and going through downsize after downsize pretty much every year that I was there, and decided that instead of waiting for them to kind of cut me and me to be, a statistic, that I needed to take control of what I wanted to do. So I took a life coaching certification course and did that, and kind of started my business through there with a lot of learning a lot of marketing and business, stuff from there, social media, writing, all of that to help with my life coaching career. And I kind of switched gears about a year and a half ago and decided that that's really the part that I really enjoyed, was the marketing and the writing and the content. And that's where I am now. And that's pretty much all I do. So I love it.
That is a great story. So let me ask you, so how did you know? So you're in this pharmaceutical career.
Right.
And I know you have I interviewed someone the other day, and they also had April Boyles-Olin. She also has a degree in social work. So I kind of see this pattern of people that have social work, relationship building.
Yes.
It's a nice segue into kind of what you're doing. But how did you go? I mean, when you were in pharmaceutical industry, how did you know what you wanted to do? You knew you needed to do something different, but how did you know what to do?
Well, it was the social work that kind of helped me figure it out. So I worked in social work. I have a social work degree and worked in that industry, in the mental health industry, for about 8 years. And I loved it. I mean, it was my passion. I mean, I absolutely loved every minute of it. But as most people know who have talked to social worker, there is that burnout side. When I was in social work, when I was in college to go to social work, my mom's like, Gretchen, you're going to make $18,000 a year. And I'm like, I'm in college, that's fine. I want to save
a lot of money.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. And after having kids, it just really took its toll on me, because it was definitely a job that was hard to not bring home, in the evenings when you come home. So while I was working there, I saw pharmaceutical reps, either through me taking clients to doctor's appointments or coming in to see the psychiatrist where I worked. So I got to know a lot of pharmaceutical reps, and was like, I think I could do that, and the dollar signs start going off, like, oh, there's good money, there's flexibility, And so I got into the pharmaceutical industry kind of by chance. I went to a job fair, met my district manager, and it kind of all fell into place. We moved our family, for me to take the job, and it just really happened really easy. But about 6 months after I started, uprooting the family, we both lived in the same town. Our parents were from the same town, and we uprooted our family, and 6 months later, I got notice of the first layoff that was going to happen.
Wow.
So it was pretty panicky, and I stayed in the industry for about 8 years, and probably every year there was another layoff. So it was like constant, just constant. And it was probably about the 6th time, and I was like, oh, I just really need to do something about this. I can't wait until I'm like that one that's cut and have no clue what I want to do when I grow up. So I just did some soul searching, hired my life coach, through all of it, and decided that my passion was really helping people, that I love that. I love that. I just love it. So I just worked on the side and started my business on the side while I was creating my life coaching business. And it all happened, after that. And then I did become a statistic and was laid off, but I was prepared.
That's wonderful. I think that I love that part of the story is that you weren't, even though you were still there, you probably financially for your family needed to keep that position, but you weren't going to be a statistic and left behind. You were already preparing yourself.
Yes.
I love that. And I think so many women need to know that you weren't sure you knew what your skill sets were. And it was relationships and networking, and you took that to the next level.
Yes. Yeah, and it was a lot. Life coaching is so much different than working in social work, because you're working with people that want to build on their hopes and their dreams rather than, like look at their past and kind of delve into that. So it's working with people that are well, so it was much more motivating and much more motivating for me and for them, and to watch them grow. So it was really a nice balance of the two. So
that's wonderful. Now, let me ask you this. So you start this business, you're going to be a life coach. How do you get your first customer or client?
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy. I was working with moms, and getting moms to take care of themselves and to, realize how important they are is really a tough thing to do. So it wasn't easy. So it was through, a lot of marketing classes that I took. And I did a lot of, like day retreats and, weekend retreats and that kind of stuff. So it was a slow process. So it was probably about 2 years that I did, both. So it was both the pharmaceutical job and the coaching job, which I'm so grateful to have that time to really get to understand internet marketing and, working through all that, because I had really no clue. So it was just a lot of training and learning and, retraining and learning. And so between the live events and growing a social media, following, I was able to get people. And some clients would sign up, year or two after they met me, so it's a long process for some. Some are like that, that know that they want to move on and create a new life. So
that's wonderful. So like you mentioned social media. So my guess is that back in 2007-ish, when you started, even in the pharmaceutical industry, you probably were not using a lot of social media at that time.
No, not
new to you.
Yeah, brand new. I mean, when I got on Facebook, it was mostly to connect with high school friends and college friends and family and all of that. I didn't really understand the whole, there's a whole world of marketing and opportunity there too. So it was all new to me.
And then, another interesting thing that I think you said that is important for us to remember is that it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took you several years. And like you said, it took some of those clients 2 years to sign up. So you had to continuously build that relationship and win their confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, when I lost, when I was laid off, I was scared out of my mind, because even though I was growing this business, it still wasn't completely sustaining. It didn't replace my pharmaceutical, income at the time. So there were times where it was complete panic. And, I started writing then just to kind of help supplement and to keep money coming in and flowing. As I was coaching, I was kind of doing a mix. And that's kind of when I had the turn that, I really love writing. I love the content. I love, the social media part of things. So I'm still helping people, but it's a little bit more behind the scenes. So I'm helping people. And that was, with coaching, I wanted to help women grow a business and learn, that they can have freedom. And so now I'm doing it more behind the scenes of, rather than, being face to face, I'm doing it behind the scenes and helping them, learn all of these tools or do it for them. So it's just really fun to watch the progress and be flexible through it all, because it changes.
It does change.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When you started the first part of your business, which was the life coaching, were you blogging at that time as well? Did you have a website and blog?
I did blog. I didn't really, nobody really taught me at that time what needed to be, I was writing for myself pretty much and to myself.
Therapy.
So it's not really motivating when you don't have an audience or people interacting or, so I didn't really understand keywords or that I needed that. I just thought, hey, I'll throw a blog up and all these people will follow and all these, you have these, because you see other people doing it or say that they're doing it and you think that's all there is to it. So, yeah, I had one, but it was hard to make myself do it consistently when you're not getting some kind of gratification from it. So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
So let me ask you this: have you always been a good writer?
You know what? I have been, but I forgot. So when I started writing, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this. When I was in high school, I was in 4-H and I was in like the speaking program. I did speeches, and I did in high school. My mom was an English teacher, so she taught me how to write. And, when I was a teenager, of course, I rolled my eyes at her, when she would correct my grammar or, go through a paper that I wrote and red ink everywhere. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything right. But, it taught me to be a good writer and to have good grammar. And I kind of forgot that I really enjoyed that part of my life. So it was fun to kind of bring it back to life.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so let's transition. So you did the life coaching, and then you were doing writing, and then you decided you were going to transition your business a little bit. Now, did you go, because now you're at GretchenPritts.com. You
Right.
you had a brand name at first, right? Or were you
Yeah.
always?
My life coaching business was Prospering Moms.
Gotcha.
So that was my business. And then so then I just transitioned into GretchenPritts.com because I still do coaching. I don't really advertise it. So I still do coaching, but I kind of wanted to leave it open to that flexibility of, stuff changing and kind of taking the road where it goes. So
I love that. I love the personal brand around that as well.
Yeah.
So when you started copywriting, how did you get your clients there? Were they you pulled some of the clients over from your coaching, or how did that work out?
Actually, I went through a couple trainings, and I was really feeling like I wanted clients like now, to have that, just to kind of keep the momentum going. I started with, some of there's like freelancer.com, and, there's a couple, websites out there that have, that you can have an account. And that's where I started. But honestly, I started and I was writing $5 articles. And that was about a year and a half ago. But to me, it was money coming in. So Absolutely. It really didn't matter. And it really helped me learn and enhance my skills and just kind of build up my confidence. So even though right now $5 articles to me sound like, I can't believe I did that, I am so grateful for that time, because I wouldn't be where I am now had I not done that. So that's kind of where I started. And when I started, it was just, like I said, to supplement my income. And then finally, when I realized that I wanted to do it, that to be my business, I transitioned everything into that. So I gave up my $5 articles on a whim, because I knew that wasn't going to right. sustain me. And I picked up the phone and called. I cold called businesses across the country and just offered my copywriting service. And that's who my clients are. Now I still have a lot of those clients, and then I get a lot from social media. So
fantastic. I love that you were honest about the fact that you started doing $5 articles, because I think that's and you made the point that it was your foundation. And, some of us want to be here, but we start here, and you have to take those baby steps. And I've gone through some things recently with the sale of a business and the breakup of a partnership for an extremely successful business, and it was so hard for me. But now I wouldn't go back and change it, because I'm a better person because of that.
Absolutely.
But it's taken me 2 years to realize it. It took me a bit to realize it.
Yeah, because it stinks when you're in it. Because, and that's the biggest thing that I've learned through it. And it's so funny because, I'm a life coach, so I tell people to be present, be in the moment. But when you're in the middle of all that garbage, the last place you want to be is in the middle of all that garbage. You know what I mean? But, looking back and I'm like, I really wouldn't change it, because it really helped me become who I am and be confident and be like, and to also know my self-worth, to know that, hey, it's $5 articles isn't, at the time I was like, I'll take whatever I can get. And now I'm like, I know that I'm much more valuable than that. So it's just all a process and kind of going through it.
I love that. So let's talk your copywriting business in general. So we don't all know, I didn't know up until about 2.5 years ago how very important social media is, content creation. And for those that aren't in the industry, they don't get it. So like when you're starting a blog, and like I had somebody ask me the other day, and my family is, well, who are you writing to? Who's reading it? And my answer was, well, no one yet.
Right.
But you have to continue to be consistent and put it out there. So how do you teach people about copywriting and the importance of that with your blog and as far as your business is concerned?
And it's in all businesses, big and small, are some have blogs, some don't. So it really depends on what your business is. But what I say is, if you decide that you want to start a blog, you have to commit to it. So, and if you're not able to commit to it, then there's no reason to do it. So, and it's the same with social media too, because the internet world is so fast. It's changing all the time. New people are coming on that people forget about you really quickly. So if you're not consistent and you're not putting up, good content, we can talk about what good content is, because there's a lot of stuff that's really not good, or, a lot of just marketing and sales, and it's so much more than that. And it's so much more about relationships and building relationships with people. And, it's just learning that balance between the two. So
I love that. So since you brought it up, let's talk about good content. What defines good content versus not so great content?
Yeah. And if you're a known brand like, Coke or Pepsi, or, like you're a known brand, national brand, there is no problem whatsoever in having your social media stuff be about promotion because people already know you. But if you, and I'm sure everybody has had it, like on Twitter or, on Facebook or, in a blog, it being a sales pitch, all about the person writing it. And so it's just a turnoff right away. If your first introduction to somebody is, a direct message on Twitter saying, get my free offer, it's kind of like, wait, I don't know anything about you. So it's good content is about becoming an authority in the market. So, showing your expertise so people can come to you as an asset. So when you're blogging or when you're writing, it's thinking about your audience rather than about you. So focusing on what can help them, which, like I said, I love helping people. So it's kind of natural for me to do that. Just kind of focus on what people need, what they want, how you can better them in their life, in their business, in their, whatever it is that you're writing about. But the blog definitely helps gain exposure and helps that audience, no matter how small it is, come to you on a regular basis. So that's kind of the gist of what good content is.
So what about, how much do you use Twitter? And what's your favorite? Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest? What do you like the best?
Well, of course, when I started, my favorite was Facebook, just because that's what was new to me. And that's more like hanging out in a, in a pub with somebody, like it's just much more social with the pictures, with the, all of that. So, but I would say probably over the past 6 to 7 months, I really transitioned into Twitter being my favorite. Yeah, because I learned how to do it right. Like I really learned how to create valuable content and connections with people. It's definitely an overwhelming kind of social, like it's fast. There's stuff going through all the time. And if you can't find your way around it, it can be a little intimidating, with all the, just the constant feed of information. But now it's just really helped me build some really great connections. And I never thought in a million years that I would say that.
That's great. So as you know, being a small business owner, and as a small business owner myself, we are strapped for time. I know we all have the same amount of time in the day, and it depends upon how we use that. But when you think about running your business, gaining customers, designing products, whatever that might be, and then blogging and writing content on top of that becomes challenging, which is where someone like yourself comes in handy. So how do you go about, how do your services help someone like myself in a small business?
And that's what it is the time management. I mean, for me, like I try to work on my business first in the morning right away to get my social media up, to get my blog posts up. But if there's a pressing, there's a deadline that I need to meet or something else that needs to be done with, inside of my business instead of working on my business, that takes priority because that's where the money comes in. So for me as a blogger, a ghost blogger for other businesses, it's about taking that pressure off. So like, that you're going to, if you make the commitment that that you want to post 2 blog posts a week, which is kind of like the standard minimum for a lot of businesses to kind of strive for those 2 posts a week. But you don't have the time, or it takes you hours to do it because it's harder to write about your own business or for your own business than it is for somebody else, because you're much more of a perfectionist when it comes to, like, oh my gosh, those demons in your head are saying, oh, is anybody going to read this? Are they going to like what I have to say? Do I really know what I'm talking about? All that stuff's going on inside your head. So I help people. I take that pressure off by just doing it for them, to make sure that it is consistent. And then they don't need to worry about it. So they can focus on their strengths rather than wasting a lot of time trying to get a blog post up.
It is tough. And I was a poor student, good daughter. That's what I always say when I was in school. So your mother would have not liked me as an English and grammar student. I was a social butterfly. So writing content for me can be challenging. Mm-hmm. And, I've learned some tricks and I've taken some courses to help with copywriting. But it's a fine science.
Yeah, it is, and it's fun to be outside looking in and kind of gather, because it's a fresh perspective when it's somebody new. A lot of people always ask me, well, how do you capture my voice? Because that's tough, and that's the biggest part that business owners don't want to give up is that voice, so it's them, so it sounds like them. And, I'm pretty flexible when I work with people. Some people come to me and they're like, I want to have you write for me, and then we talk, and they're like, no, I'm not ready to give that up. I'd rather you do social media. You know what I mean? So, the voice part is it's just by learning to know you and, questionnaire that I have to get to know you and your clients and your customers and who you're trying to capture. And it's just a lot of research on my part, reading through past blogs and knowing how you, talk in them. And that's where the difference between the $5 articles and paying for somebody that will take that extra time. Because those $5 articles, you're cranking out like that
Sure.
because to make money. Whereas, if you're paying for good content, people are taking their time and doing their research to get it done the right way.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've heard both sides of it. I've heard the side that you should never give up your personal social media for your business because you should have that contact with your customer. But
yes.
It's tough. So, I know you do this for a living, so I kind of know what your point is, I think, but it's tough. So how do you go about, okay, I want to be the person that people connect with me, but I don't have the time to do that all. So it's a struggle.
Yeah. And, typically what I do with the people that I work with is, I do a lot of the, like friending, joining groups on LinkedIn, finding the right people on Twitter, because that's the biggest thing on Twitter is finding the right kind of followers, on Facebook, following the right. So I do a lot of that, the friend requests. But when there comes a time for somebody's own voice to come in, I'll send them an email and be like, hey, can you answer this? And they send it back to me and I put it up. So it's still connecting with, because I don't know how they would answer, certain questions or, and I don't want to lose that. And I do think that it's important, but there's also not the time for a lot of people. Sure. Or a lot of new businesses or even established businesses know they need to be on social media, but they have no desire whatsoever to learn how to do it, So it's just, I try to keep as much personal in there, personal voice of the business owner as possible.
Well, that's terrific. That's a really good point. With my last business, we hired a company a couple of times to write some general articles for a blog, and it was just a terrible experience. I mean, I felt it was like pulling teeth to get them to respond, and they didn't understand what I needed, and I suggested we make a phone call and talk, and there was, it's a $50 charge to talk with me on the phone. It was so strange to me. And they're well known as apparently a really good copywriting business, but our ghostwriting business, it was terrible. But it sounds like you have such a different approach, and it again sounds like it's based on relationships, which is so important to business.
It is. And, and you're not the first person that's told me that about it being a horrible experience, with article writing or blogging. And it's just, and I really try to to learn about you first. And that's part of it, is learning who I'm working with, who they are, and what makes them tick. And that's where my relationship and my social work skills all really, come into play through all of that. So it's just fun to kind of incorporate all of this background that I never knew how it was going to come together is really coming together. So it's just fun to bring it all, full circle.
So let's talk about this. You went from being very unhappy as a pharmaceutical sales rep, or I think a lot of people think, ooh, I want to be a pharmaceutical sales rep because they make a lot of money, and there's a whole different side of that we probably shouldn't get into. But you were kind of miserable in that life, and now you run your own life and you run your own business. So I know you're a mom, so tell us how that has changed and what being your own boss has meant to you and your family.
Yeah, and it's night and day when I look back at myself and how miserable I was. Because again, when you're in it, like I had a clue that I was miserable, but I really didn't know how miserable until you get out of it and look back. Just the energy, just the, it's just given me so much freedom. I love the fact my kids are teenagers, that I can run them around in the middle of the day in the summer. And, it's so refreshing. When I was working full time, I couldn't wait till summer ended, till they went back to school and we got back into a routine. Over the past couple of years working from home, I'm really not happy when summer ends. I love having them around. It's just really changed everything about who I am, how I function, how my day runs. I work my tail off, and people will say to me, oh, you have all this free time now. I don't. I work harder now than when I worked full time. But there's still a freedom about the sketch. It's just much more laid back or something. Right. There's just something about it that has changed my outlook and what's important. Not to say that there's not times when I'm completely panicked and, wondering, oh my gosh, where's the next customer going to come from? But it always turns around and happens. But, in that moment, you still have panic times as a business owner. It's just the ups and downs, but I would not change it for the world.
I love that. And I love that you're so honest about that too, because it is tough. And I do think some people think, oh, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to have all this free time. Your time is your time, but right. You're the only person that's going to complete the work. So it's just as busy,
yep,
but in a different way.
Yeah, it really is. And, I pretty much work 7 days a week, but I work a couple hours on the weekend, but I don't mind that. I work before the kids wake up on the weekends, and then we have the rest of the day to goof around or do whatever or work in the garden but it's fun, and I wouldn't change it because it's something I'm passionate about. When I was selling pharmaceuticals, I was never much of a medicine taker anyway, so I'm not really sure why I thought that was a good idea, but I wasn't really passionate about that business. So, but again, I wouldn't change it because it brought me to where I am, but it's all just part of the learning.
That's terrific. So let me ask you this. If you were going to give someone that was in your shoes a few years ago any suggestions or tip about going out on their own or starting their business, what would you say to that person?
I would say be flexible. Number one, be consistent. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and just kind of ride the wave. And the biggest thing, even though I work in social media and my business is mostly online now, if there comes a time that you're like panicked or don't know where the business is going, don't forget about the phone. Make those phone calls. That was the absolute scariest thing for me to do is pick up a phone, because I know I hate getting unsolicited phone calls, but I loved it. I could talk to somebody and build a relationship right away. So if you really need the business like now, you need to know, pick up the phone. Don't forget the old school tactics, because they still work too.
I love that. It's like, you're at, my niece and my sister were here not too long ago, and they were on different sofas here in my home, but they were texting each other back and forth. And I'm like, we're here in the same room. It's okay. We can still speak. It's okay. And so I love that. It is okay to still talk to someone. It
is. It really is. Yeah. And like I said, over the course of a year and a half, those customers are still my customer. They're still bringing in the articles and what they need. So definitely go for it. And I've talked to people through it, and they're like, yeah, but I don't like to talk on the phone. It's scary. Really, after you get through the first 3, it's fun.
I love that. Gretchen, if this has been terrific and such a wealth of information, if someone wanted to reach out and touch base with you, where would be the best place to contact you?
Probably the best place is by my email address, which is gretchen@gretchenpritts.com. And then from there, I'm all over social media on Facebook and Twitter. So just search Gretchen Pritts and you can find me either of those and send me messages there too.
We'll link all those up as well. Is there anything that are you doing any type of products or, anything like that you want to share? Or?
Yeah, this fall, I always say September's kind of like January. People, whether it's life or business or whatever, people get real motivated to do stuff. I want to do a social media / content writing boot camp where we have tips of the week and kind of like prompts of the week to get you started, talking about keywords, talking about, blog, where the best place to have it, your free offer. So I have that in the works. It's still kind of like floating around in my head, but I hope to launch that in September.
Awesome. Well, when you do, let us know. We'll link that up. I think I learn a lot. I listen to nothing but podcasts. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't know the latest music. Everything I do is educational. And that's just the type of person that I am. So, and like you said, a lot of information that you gained in Knowledge Base was, some of that was probably courses, but some was probably free content online.
Absolutely. And that's where, no matter what your business is, whether you're gardening, whether you're cooking, whether you're, designing, whatever it is, a blog is a great way, or a podcast or a video or, whatever it is a great way to showcase that. So there's just show people, and provide that wealth and the customer and the business will follow.
Hey, does your mom ever still grade does she look at your work now and give you any red marks?
She doesn't, but she's like, I'm retiring in a year and I hope you can outsource some work to me.
I love that. Gretchen, this has been a pleasure. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Sheila, for having me. This was fun.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's our show, and thanks again for tuning in. Hey, I have a huge favor. I'd like for you to join us over at www.successfulwomentalk.com. Join our email list, and on that list, you'll be a VIP. You'll be receiving all of our newest updates, newest interviews, our newsletter, and any tips and tricks we have for organizing your business and getting raving fans and customers that actually just sing your praises. So again, thanks again for tuning in. Check us out next week for another episode of SuccessfulWomenTalk.com. Thanks, guys.